everybody, welcome to my channel. Today we're going to do an adaptive yoga flow, and this is going to be a little bit different. I've done chair yoga before that's done entirely in a chair. This is going to be more of a traditional flow with some significant modifications, so things that we need. You can tell right off the bat if you've ever watched a video of mine before. I'm not set up in the center of the room. I'm set up so that the short edge of my mat is against a wall. And depending on how you want to modify things, that could be really important for you to do. The other thing is I do have a chair. So a lot of the poses are going to be modified where you can use either a chair or the wall. Or you may want to use just 2 blocks. So I would say 2 blocks, a strap, maybe a chair, the wall, and then potentially a bolster or a body pillow. And then I just remembered one more thing, a blanket. So I do have just like a folded blanket. And we'll go through this flow. When I go through any posture, especially if it's the first time, I'll probably show you several different ways to modify it. And then it's totally up to you. If you watch it first, and you like it one way, try that. Try some of the other modifications that you haven't done. But once you get the flow of things, you'll know which adaptation works best for you. So without further ado, we're gonna get started in child's pose. And for child's pose, traditionally we would put our feet together, knees wide, stretch out, and put our forehead on the mat. To make this posture more accessible, there are a couple things you can do. You can put a bolster or a pillow between your knees and kind of rest over that, so that brings the floor quite a bit closer. You could also use a sturdy chair, and in all honesty, if I were gonna do this, I would have my chair against a wall too, just to be careful. But you can kind of build a ramp and stretch out on your chair, or you can build a ramp using your blocks. So that's what I'll do, since that's the last one I'm going over. Any one of these that works for you, please do that. So I've just got 1 block on the shorter setting, 1 block on the longer setting. It makes a nice ramp. You can also, if you can't get your legs underneath you like that, hug this bolster however you want and make it come as high as you need for it to work for you. So in this case, I might just come down. So this is how we're going to settle into our practice. Again, making this as high as it needs to be so that you're comfortable. You're not trying to strain or feel any pull. But breathe into your child's pose, whatever modification you're taking. Maybe close your eyes, begin to deepen your breath. Breathe deep into your belly. From our child's pose, we're going to take cat-cow. And for cat-cow, we can do this again several ways. Probably the most modified is to sit in a chair and hold on to your knees. I'm going to do some modifications that aren't just chair because I do have a chair yoga. So you can sit kind of in an easy pose, hold on to your knees and round your spine. Then pull your knees to pull forward. So that's one way that you can do your cat-cow if that works for you. You can also use a bolster so that your hands are kind of out and you pull forward and push back. You can use the edge of a chair so anything that creates that opposition, right? Like rounding and pulling forward. And for just cat-cow with no modification, that would be hands underneath you, knees underneath you, dropping our back. And then gazing at our belly button. In this posture, if you have, knees that are very sensitive or tender, just take your folded blanket and put it under your knees, and that may be all the modification that you need. You could put one under your hands too, whatever works. So we'll take one more inhale, one more exhale, and we're gonna push ourselves into a downward facing dog. So for downward facing dog, this is what it would look like with no modification. Feet are behind us, hands between our bicep. To make that a little bit more accessible, you can do a couple things. You can just use blocks so that, again, that floor is closer. But what I'm gonna do today is one of two things. One is on the wall, and we can use the wall for a lot of things in a sun salutation. So we just press into the wall, walk your heels back to where you're kind of stretched out on your arms. Look down. Or you can do the same thing on a chair, which makes it a little bit lower and closer to the ground, but not all the way to the ground. So we're just breathing in our down dog, getting ready for practice. Ready to sink into some energy that flows a little better. Breathe in. On your exhale, stand up. Put your hands to heart center. Raise them up as you inhale. Pull them down. Let's start with one O. Breathe in. On your exhale, we're going to go into a sun salutation that's supported on the wall. So we would go from a high to low push-up. What I want you to do is stand with your hands out, pressing into the wall. So kind of pressing your hands. That makes your shoulder blades come together a little bit. Firm so that your abs are in and tight. And then for low push-up, we're just gonna bend our elbows and come towards the wall. Then we would come into an upward facing dog, so gaze up, and then downward facing dog, step back. Breathe in, exhale, step forward, high mountain pose. If you'd like to have complete support here, you can stand against the wall, arms come up, high mountain pose. Exhale, we're gonna forward fold. So that can either be just a little bit deeper fold on the wall, or you can have your blocks handy and fold down all the way. Exhale. Inhale, we're gonna rise up to high mountain pose. Exhale, high push up, low push up. Upward facing dog, downward facing dog. We'll do one more, and we're gonna add on a little bit this time. So breathe in, exhale, breathe out. Rise up, high mountain pose. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, rise back up. High push up, low push up, upward facing dog, downward facing dog. We're going to step ourselves into a warrior one. For warrior one, there are several ways to modify this. So one of the easiest ways is to just step forward with your right foot, like you're in a lunge, and press into the wall. You can also, instead of turning your back foot, you can just step into more of a lunge if balance is not an issue for you, and come into a modification here. You can drop your knee if you'd like. So I'm gonna just press into the wall for my warrior one. My front leg is bent. And then I'm gonna open up to a warrior two. So again, I open my arms this way. I can drop my leg. I can use the wall, whatever works for you. So for me, if I use the wall this time, I'm kind of stepping into the wall with one foot or the other. So I could also use the wall this way. It's a little bit trickier. You really can only get one hand out that way, and that's fine. At least I can. I have kind of excessively long arms. So that's your warrior two. And then from warrior two, we're just gonna come back into our high push-up. So high push-up, low push-up, upward facing dog, downward facing dog. Do one more sun B, so with our warrior one and warrior two. So inhale, step forward and rise up. Exhale, we're gonna fold down. Inhale, rise up. Exhale, high push up. Inhale, low push up. Upward facing dog. Press back to downward facing dog. Breathe in. We're gonna step into our warrior one. So this is how I'm gonna do mine. You've got the modifications for you. Then I'm gonna step back into a high push-up, low push-up, upward facing dog, and downward facing dog. And then I'm gonna step my left foot forward for a warrior one. And then again, high push-up, low push-up, upward facing dog, downward facing dog. Catch your breath here. Breathe in and sigh it out. We're gonna stand up and get ready to do eagle pose. So for eagle pose, the least modified would be to wrap your leg around, just keep it on the ground. Your other arm comes under. Other modifications, you can have a block handy so that as you wrap your foot, you can just rest it on the block. You can sink back using the back of the wall as support as you cross your foot over and your arms come under. And you can sit into this as much or as little as you want. You can use a block under that toe if you'd like. Or if you're feeling weak or you're unable to do the leg part, you can just wrap your arms. If the arm part is too hard for you, then don't wrap them all the way. Just kind of cross them over. Okay, just as much as you can. So we're just kind of stretching out our shoulders. We're gonna stand up and unwrap, and we're gonna switch our legs. So now our left leg comes up and over. We sink down into it, and we do our eagle arms. Using the wall for support. Breathe into this a little bit. I think it's good to have a chair because you can always sit down in the chair if you need to and cross your legs. So that would look kind of like this, where we wrap up and over, maybe on a block. And now you have a little bit of a seat. Raise your arms up. We're gonna come into tree pose. For tree pose, you can keep your leg down here, your hands at heart center. You can use the wall for support in any of these balancing poses. So maybe you want your foot down here. You can use your block to rest your foot, so we kind of bring it against this inner foot and rest it here. Just letting the wall support us. Let's see, other tree pose variations. Those are the main ones. This block can come higher if you want it to. But I would say either keep your foot down on a block and then using that wall for support so you don't tip over. We're gonna switch after a few breaths, and we're gonna do that on the other side. I gotta turn my back to the camera because if I'm gonna use the wall, that's how it goes. So I've got the wall for support. I'm standing up tall, my abdomen is pulled in. Everything's contracted to hold me in this position, upright. My shoulder blades come down my back, looking straight ahead. Go ahead and release that. We're gonna come into dancer's pose. For dancer's pose, there are several modifications. One is simply using a strap and the wall for support. So you would wrap your foot, maybe keep your one hand steady, I'm gonna walk it in a little bit more, and bring your foot up behind you. So that is one way. You might want to just use the wall for support and bring your foot into your hand. And then the last way that I will show you that I can think of right now is to lie down on your stomach and just pull your leg up behind you. Again, if you can't reach your foot, no big deal. Use your strap, get that on your foot, and kind of let your hand pull it in that way. So we're getting our quadricep stretched out a little bit. If you're standing, it's still a balance challenge, so you've got that going on for you. Whatever modification you've taken, let's go ahead and switch to the other side. So now we're standing on our right foot. We get our left foot into the strap. Got my hand, this is my right hand. So right hand, right foot are planted. And I'm just gonna raise up that left foot with my left hand. And breathe into that. And release. We're gonna come into a low lunge. So for a low lunge, one knee's down, the other leg is forward. You can widen this as much as you want and come forward. You can bring your arms up. Other things you might want to do just to make this a little more secure, you can lunge kind of with a bolster in front of that knee to hold you in place. You can keep your hands down. One thing I think is really helpful, if you're able to get on your knee, then just use some blocks here. And if you need that extra padding, put a blanket under your knee. So now it's nice and padded. And here we are in our low lunge. Keeping our knee pointing forward. Let's switch sides. I'm going to stay in this posture. I bring my left foot forward. I'm stretching the front side of that right hip. I'm stacked. Getting a nice stretch. Very nice. From here, we're going to come onto our belly. We're going to be in locust pose. So for locust pose, there are several ways to modify this. So come down onto your belly. Put your hands out behind you. So first, you can raise one arm and one leg. You can just do your arms. So your arms begin to pull back, leaving your feet down. Totally fine. Or if that's too hard on your shoulders or your upper back, I'm going to scoot back a little bit on my mat. You can bring your hands kind of wide. Oopsie. So mine are going to be a little bit wider than my mat actually, and yours probably will be too. And really what we're trying to do is just get a little bit of mobility up in here Get a little bit of shoulder work, but this is a lot more stable for you than traditional locust pose. So from here, come on down. We're gonna take a little bit of a cobra pose. So for cobra on the mat, if you wanna stay here, you just put your hands beside your ribs and ever so slightly pull so you want your elbows pulled in and you push yourself up. Not a lot, you shouldn't be feeling it in the low back at all. Okay, so just a tiny micro movement there. If you would like to do this on the wall, go ahead and stand back up. And you press yourself in to the wall, pull your shoulder blades, your shoulders back, and then push into the wall as you're pulling back with your elbows. So you're getting the muscles in between your shoulder blades strengthened. And this helps with back pain, posture, and release. We're gonna take a couple more rounds of cat-cow. Whatever modification we did earlier that works for you, go ahead and take that now. Exhale as you look at your belly button. Inhale as you look up, pulling on the bolster or pressing into the ground. One more cow, one more cat. And release. We're gonna do a seated forward fold. So for this, sit on your mat. Lots of ways to do this as well. So you can bend your knees a little or a lot. There is no need to have straight legs here. Okay, so if you straighten your legs and you start feeling that in your low back, just bend your knees more. So one way we can do this is by using a strap around our feet, and we just pull, okay? And you may not even pull forward. That may be this, it doesn't have to be a big movement to get the benefit, okay? So strap, legs bent, either one of those works. Just feeling, you're gonna feel some stretch down the back of your leg. Hinging at your hips. And then release that. We're gonna take pigeon pose, which is a pretty deep hip opener. So the most modified version of pigeon would be lying on your back. I mean, unless we're in a chair, so there would be a chair position. But if you lie on your back and just take your right ankle over your left knee. The next phase would be to pull all that up so our feet are flexed. We loop our hands around our left knee. Right ankle is here and we push out. So kind of a reclining pigeon. The other modifications you can take would be to use a block and come into a traditional pigeon pose with a block underneath your cheek, and you may want another block or a bolster in front of you, so that now you're on long arms. And then the last modification that you could do would be, you kind of keep a bolster right here, like in where your bottom is, so you sit your cheek on the bolster, maybe more like the upper thigh, I guess. Your foot comes out and the other leg comes behind you. Any one of those postures. We'll take a few breaths here. Usually I like to do 5 to 10 breaths in pigeon pose. So if you started early with reclining pigeon and you've been in that for 5 breaths, feel free to come out of it. We're gonna switch to the other leg. So for me, I'll just pull this around. And now my left foot's in front, my foot is flexed. So whatever posture allows you to be in proper alignment is the one that you want to do. That also does not create any pain. This will be potentially uncomfortable, like you're getting a really deep stretch and an opening, but it shouldn't pinch or feel sharp or painful. Beautiful. Okay, we're going to come out of that, and we're going to do a little bit of core work. Nothing too crazy. But first we're going to lie on our back, and we're going to do, my ponytail's in the way, so I'm going to put a block under my head. We're going to just do one leg lift at a time. As we do that, tilt your pelvis a little bit. That engages your low abs. And then just lift your leg as high as you can. Breathe in and exhale as you lift. We're going to do 5 on either side, so this is 2. 3. Remembering to breathe. 4. 5. So one more on the left side and we're done with that. It's a really good way to strengthen your hip flexors and your core. The next thing we're going to do is called a knee press. And this is a great way to strengthen your lower abs and also your inner thighs. So you're going to lie down, place a block between your knees, and then you're just going to squeeze. You can do this sitting in a chair. So if, lying down doesn't feel good to you, or if you're pregnant, you really shouldn't be lying on your back too much, then you can sit in a chair and do the same thing, rock between your knees, and then just squeeze. And I think we've got to be pretty close to 10, so we'll do like 3 more. 2, 3. And then we're going to put the block down. Our next pose will be boat pose. This is a really good core workout. So for boat pose, one thing that you can do that might actually really help is to put a block or a bolster. I'm going to use the bolster. It's got a little more weight to it. Behind your low back. So now you're kind of in the correct position and you don't have to hold yourself up. So then we can use our strap if we want to. Put it around our feet and lift our feet up. Okay, that's one way. Another way is to keep so we're still sitting on our sits bones at a bit of an angle. We keep our elbows out, lift one leg, and then the other. And keep doing that. You can also tilt back and lift both legs. You can use your back against the wall if you like. Kind of out a little bit though, so you're at an angle. And then lift one leg and then the other. So however much support feels good to you. Most likely you have held this for at least 5 breaths now. So go ahead and release that. We just have a couple more poses. We're going to do an inversion. And for this, we're going to do supported bridge. So we lie down on our backs. And we're going to kind of work this block under our sacrum. So we're just resting. Sorry, my bolster's in my way. We're just resting our lower hips, our sacrum on the block. Our feet are planted. This should feel pretty good. So you're totally relaxed into it, but you're still getting heart opening and the benefits of a minor inversion, just a little inversion, improving circulation. Super healthy. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and release that. We're gonna come into a happy baby posture. So for happy baby, again, we're lying down. One modification or one way to do this is just to raise your legs up and hold behind them. keeping your low back on the floor. This is probably the best way to modify it that I can think of, but we can use our strap for this as well. So, you know, either keeping your feet into the strap, so, you know, kind of pressing your feet into the strap, so maybe less of a bend in your knee. That'll work. Then we're going to release that. And we have two options for our final inversion. One is waterfall pose. So again, that block comes under the sacrum and our feet come up. Another option will be legs up a wall. So you're going to scoot yourself, you know, kind of as close to the wall as you can, getting your bottom up against it. So I'm just kind of working my way there, and then you know, shimmy myself forward until I'm up against the wall. And then you just breathe here, relax, enjoy that posture. This is really good for circulation, kind of restores balance. Take a few breaths here. And from here, we're just going to go into our final resting pose, or Shavasana. So for Shavasana, make yourself comfortable, whatever that looks like. If you want to create a little bit of a ramp with your blocks, so you're in more of a heart pose, take your bolster and your blocks, set your lower back right up against that, and feel free to rest like this. You can rest in a child's pose. You can lie flat down on your back. Whatever feels good to you. In terms of your legs, you just want them totally relaxed. You want your arms totally relaxed. That can be, you know, kind of on your belly, or I'm going to let mine fall open. If this is too much opening, you can get more blocks and kind of put them under your arms or something like that. Feel free to use a blanket for warmth. We're just going to sit here and breathe with our eyes closed. Our breath is normal, it's not forced. I'd invite you to check in and see if your jaw's clenched. Maybe relax your eyebrows. Just melt into the mat, feeling all the points of contact in all the ways that the ground is supporting you. Breathe in. Bring some movement back to your fingers and toes. You can either stay here, or you can sit up in a comfortable seated position for you. Bring your hands to your heart center. Honor yourself for showing up on your mat today, for all the beautiful work you did. The light in me sees and honors the light in you. Thumbs to third eye, we bow and say namaste. Thank you so much for joining me today. I really hope you enjoyed that. Have a great day, everybody. Thank you.